Week 3 of the college football playoff season. Where does the Group of 5 college football playoff race stand? Is the American really just going to dominate this year? Let's talk about it. Folks, this is the Let's Run podcast. Everybody, welcome to the show today. Grateful to have you. Grateful to have you be a part of the Let's Run podcast. Please, while you are here, like this video, subscribe to the channel. I talk about Group of 5 college football generally, although I will sometimes delve into the power conferences. Let's talk about the Group of 5 playoff race. And I thought that perhaps the best way to do this week would be to do a weekly power ranking for the Group of 5 playoff race. Now, I may not do it every week and maybe bi-weekly because sometimes results can kind of be skewed a little bit. But right now, it looks like the American is dominating the G6. Obviously, James Madison had a chance to take down Louisville, James Madison, and the rest of the Sun Belt schools. Shout out to Old Dominion. That was a big win against Virginia Tech, getting their coach fired. But I think that the Sun Belt, especially with Texas State losing to Arizona State, I worry a little bit about the Sun Belt's ability to really contend for that college football playoff spot this year. Just because a lot of the good, you need to have, as a G5 school, you need to have beaten at least one, and it would help if they're not a terrible Power 5 conference team. But you need to have beaten at least one. And the Sun Belt schools have not done that. They have struggled. Even a school like Texas State, who has really impressed me this year, they had that great win at UTSA. They lose to Arizona State. And ultimately, I just don't see a Sun Belt team be getting out of the G5 for the college football playoff spot, just because none of them are going to have power conference wins. And the winner of the American and to a lesser extent other G5 conferences is going to have a big advantage on them. So I don't see the Sun Belt getting in. The MAC, likewise, the MAC just doesn't have any signature wins. And looking at the schedules of the teams in the MAC, there are no undefeated teams left in the MAC. All of them have taken losses. Toledo is maybe the best bet, but again, there's just no power conference type wins that you can get if you're a MAC school. I guess the honorable mention that I would throw out there is Toledo maybe could, if they win out and there are a bunch of teams lose, maybe Toledo could do it, but I don't see it. Likewise, Conference USA, Liberty looks like caca this year. I don't know what happened to them. They look bad. UTEP doesn't look quite there. New Mexico State with a bad loss. There are no undefeated teams left in the Conference USA. Teams like Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky, there's just not enough there. And especially with that loss to Toledo from Western Kentucky, there's just not going to be enough juice from Conference USA to compete for the college football playoff this year. So that leaves us with 3 conferences, or I guess 2 conferences. My apologies. That leaves us with the Mountain West, and it leaves us with the American. And so let's go to number 5. I'm going to cheat because I don't feel, if you gave the tiebreaker to a school, it would probably be to Boise State. But at number 5, I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say UNLV/Boise State. Boise State, with that blowout loss to USF, really put the Mountain West in, behind the American. The American team that wins that conference is either going to be USF, who will have a head-to-head against Boise State and has looked good despite that blowout loss to Miami. I still think USF is a good football team. They just have a little bit of work. Maybe they're not quite as good. Maybe that Florida team that they beat isn't quite as good as we thought, but USF will appear on this list. And so, I would say, obviously, the fact that UNLV has never beaten Boise State, you would probably give the edge to Boise State. But I do feel like it's fair to include UNLV and Boise State in kind of a tier of their own right now together, because UNLV is undefeated and Boise State, that loss to USF is going to sting them. They're going to play Notre Dame. Notre Dame starting the season at 0-2 does not look as strong, perhaps, as we thought they were going to look, despite the fact that they're still ridiculously ranked. I have no idea why the AP poll has an 0-2 team ranked in the top 25. And I guess that they were both to good teams that Notre Dame lost to, but winning has to count in college football. And so I look at the Mountain West schedule. UNLV does not play another power conference opponent. They play Miami, Ohio on the road and then dive into Mountain West conference play. Boise State has, a better chance to get a more signature win with that game at Notre Dame, but they so they do still play a power conference opponent. They haven't played one yet. And so winning that game, Boise State at 11-1 probably has the edge over, could probably maybe get into the college football playoff, depending on if the American schools beat each other up. But ultimately, I think that the American schools are just going to have too big of an advantage. And so, the Mountain West schools, we're not out of it, and there's still room to go, and there's still room to grow. Certainly there are some other Mountain West teams that could potentially have their place here. Utah State's 2-1 with that only with the loss to Texas A&M. New Mexico only has their loss to Michigan, but I think it's fair to, at least for right now, be cautious and say that whoever wins the Mountain West, and I'm going to assume right now that it's going to be UNLV or Boise State, but the conference looks kind of wide open this year, so I could be wrong. They will have a puncher's chance, but they will be behind the 8-ball in terms of the college football playoff race. Let's go to number 4. This is North Texas. This is not a team that I expected to be on this list. In fact, when I was looking at, I didn't want to just have 5 American teams because I was looking at all of the schedules and the teams in the American. If you pull up the American standings right now, there are 3 teams or 4 teams that look pretty solid at this current point in time. And I guess I'll just briefly mention Navy. Navy's not on my list just because their schedule is very difficult. Even though they're 3-0, I see a lot of losses on that schedule ahead of them. But North Texas, I mean, if we look at North Texas's schedule, they go at Army. That's a winnable game. Army's fine this year, but I don't think they're as good as they were last year. That'll be a fun game. Then they play South Alabama. They get South Florida, but they get them at home. North Texas, number 4. And South Florida, I think they're a good team, but ultimately, I think that's a very winnable game for North Texas. Then they get UTSA. UTSA is a team that they can absolutely beat. They go at Charlotte. Charlotte's not any good this year. They get their game versus Navy. I think that is a game that's Navy. I like North Texas probably a bit more than Navy, especially after that 59-10 blowout destruction of Washington State. North Texas looks legit. And then they finish at UAB, at Rice, and versus Temple. That schedule, man, there's 11-1 written all over that. I mean, maybe they drop a game to Army, maybe they drop a game to Navy, maybe they lose to South Florida, but that seems like a schedule that can get them into the American championship game. And North Texas, man, I'm telling you, North Texas might just be the Group of 5 college football playoff team this season. They are going to have to win the American, obviously, as are all of these teams. All the rest of the teams on this list are American teams. But I'm impressed, man. North Texas looks good. And so, watch out for them. And, do not be surprised if you start hearing and seeing North Texas in the conversation. Not having to play Memphis, not having to play Tulane. That's a big deal. So let's go on to our number 3, which is Memphis. Memphis is 3-0. Now, Memphis has not played a team that I think is any good yet. They get their big opportunity with a home game versus the University of Arkansas. Now, Arkansas, Sam Pittman is probably in his last season at Arkansas. That schedule and, that team, there's just too much talent on this Arkansas team. And they've got a brutal SEC schedule. They lost to Ole Miss 41-35 in a thriller of a game. Memphis will have a chance in this one. In fact, I'm not sure what the line is, but let me look it up right now. Memphis versus Arkansas line. So Memphis, looks like Arkansas is favored by 5, by 6.5 is what I'm seeing right now. Arkansas and Memphis. This is a winnable game for Memphis. This is an SEC opponent. This is a home game. Memphis can win this game. And even if they don't win this game, if you look at the rest of their schedule, Memphis has decent, if not favorable matchups. They get FAU, Tulsa, UAB. They get South Florida again at home. South Florida has a brutal schedule. They get Rice. They get Tulane at home. Memphis, even at 11-1, could even if they don't beat Arkansas, which they very well could, Memphis could be looking at a 12-0 season this year. Very well. I mean, 11-1 probably, or 10-2, but 10-2 or 11-1 Memphis. I think that that team could absolutely be in the college football playoff. And this home game against Arkansas, if Memphis wins it, they're going to go to my number one spot on this ranking. A win against an SEC team, even if Arkansas isn't the greatest SEC team, that team has a lot of talent. Memphis looks good. And again, these are 4 American teams. And so Memphis is scary. They have good home matchups. I think that they have an inside track to the college football playoff. Let's jump to number 2. Number 2 is South Florida. Now you might be surprised after destroying Boise State and after beating Florida in the swamp. Why is South Florida number 2? I think it's kind of the schedule. I think that they get a little hosed. They have to go at North Texas. That's going to be a tough game. North Texas is a good team, good program, and they could absolutely lose that game. And if they lose more than 2 American games, you could start seeing tiebreakers get in. And if USF doesn't make if you have to win the American League Championship, and so games at North Texas, at Memphis, at Navy, those are 3 games that they could lose 2 of for sure. And they also, that game against Miami, they didn't look great. Now, look, that win against Boise State and the win at Florida certainly are going to be good games and good results from the season. But how good is Boise State? I don't feel like we really know that yet. All we know is they got killed by USF and they beat a not so good Big Sky team. I think Eastern Washington is a Big Sky team. And how good is Florida? Is South Florida's key win going to be over a team that fired their coach mid-season because they're struggling? I don't know. South Florida certainly has the best track. If they win out and they win the American, they are the team that goes to the college football playoff. But they're not my number 1. Who is the number 1 spot? That would go to Tulane. Tulane is good, man. I really like Tulane as a program this year. I really like, as a person who was a big fan of Jake Retzlaff at BYU. He's a good player. He's a good quarterback, and Tulane is set up really nicely with their schedule. The reason why Tulane has the inside track over a school like USF, in my opinion, one, they get to play USF. Tulane does get to play USF, right? I want to make sure. Sometimes you get these schedules mixed up. Tulane does. My mistake. Tulane does not play USF. But Tulane has a tough game at Memphis. They're going to have to win that one. They play at UTSA. That's kind of tricky. But really, those are their 2 biggest roadblocks in conference play. They get Army at home. They get FAU, Charlotte, Temple, East Carolina. That's at home. East Carolina might be a good team this year. But the biggest reason why is because Tulane beat Northwestern. Now, you may say Northwestern's not a great Power 4 team, but they're a Power 4 team. They beat South Alabama in a closer game than it should have been. And then they beat Duke on the road. And then they beat Duke, also a Power Conference win. And ultimately, while you may think, well, those aren't good Power Conference teams, Power Conference wins matter. And with their schedule, not having to play USF, and their toughest game being at Memphis, Tulane's the number 1 pick for the college football playoff from the group of 5 right now. And I don't think it's, I really think it's not very close. I think Tulane's easily over South Florida and over Memphis and over North Texas. And so the point of this, and really when I sat down and I tried to make a list, I really tried, guys, to find any school from any other group of 5 conference other than the American to put on this list. And I couldn't do it. The American is awesome this year. And, they're going to have to be careful not to beat up each other too much. There's going to be a little bit of that. And that's expected when you have 4 teams in the top 5 group of 5 teams right now. But, I think that the American is sitting back and specifically with the Pac-12 drama of the Pac-12 trying to poach American schools, the American is sitting back and looking at the Pac-12 and saying, we don't have 7, we don't have 8 teams in our conference. We're a big conference. Our media distribution is very reasonable. We are getting payouts from schools that left the conference, like Houston, like, UCF and Cincinnati. Bring it on, Pac-12. And I think that's the message that the American is sending right now as these conferences kind of split off in the West. And so the American is showing to me why, it would be better just to have merged. But whatever, I'm not going to talk about that right now between the Mountain West and the Pac-12. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Do you think my list is correct? Do you think South Florida should be number one? Do you think Memphis should be number one? Do you think the Mountain West schools really have a chance? Because it's looking kind of bleak right now. UNLV at 3-0 still controls its own destiny. Boise State does not control its own destiny. That's kind of why I felt like UNLV had to be a part of this list. So, guys, let me know your thoughts. Please subscribe to the channel and let's run.